Alrighty, an Altazim Stronghold Tournament Edition is our map. In the top left-hand corner, he took game number 1 of our best of 9 show match tonight. It is the Red Zerg player from Team Liquid. It is Snute. And over in the top right-hand corner, his opponent down, but certainly not out. It's the blue Protoss player from Evil Geniuses. It is HuK.
So as you said, 1-0 up at the moment for the Team Liquid Zerg, but game 1, it was such a back and forth, real slugfest between the two of them, and HuK showing some incredibly impressive multi-prong attacks, dropping, expansion management that limited Snute, typically a very macro-orientated player, to only 4 bases.
Yeah, and you know, it's interesting. You talk about the percentages and the amount of people who are kind of, well, you know, thinking that Snute is the more likely candidate to come out tonight with a victory, but I don't think HuK is thinking that way at all, to tell you the truth. He's someone who has always just exuded confidence about his own play and about his potential to do well, and I think that game we saw a confident Protoss player. I don't think we saw anybody who was afraid of his opponent.
No, and the thing is, that confidence can often really, really help you. There are certainly a lot of players, both in StarCraft 2, both in really any sport actually, where confidence plays such a big role. If you go in thinking that I can't win this, I'm not going to be able to do it or whatever, it can really reflect in how you play. But as you said, HuK is a very confident player, very strategic, he's got great timings. I don't have any doubt that he has the ability to take games off Snute.
Yeah, and we'll see what he does opt for. Both players identical openings to their first game that was on Frost here on Altazim Stronghold. Snute going for the 15 pool, as he always does, followed by that hatchery. HuK going for the Nexus first, followed by the Gateway. So, he doesn't feel that he needs to do anything too differently here. He is getting pretty early gases here, however.
Yeah, these 2 gases coming down pretty damn quick. Snute will be able to get in order to scout that, though. Due to the Gateway being a little bit later than obviously the Nexus, it means that no Cybercore, no risk to this Overlord. Just going to come in, scout it all down. The other good advantage, and it's something which isn't often touched upon, is these spawn locations, and the fact that the Overlord went the right way is a big win for Snute. Outstream is such a huge map.
No, it's going to be great for him. He's going to have 100% basically of understanding in regards to what his opponent is going to be doing. He comes in on top of this Nexus here. He sees those gases taken, not just the gases taken, but he sees 3 on one gas, 2 on the other. And from there, he can kind of, start making his adjustments towards playing, I would think, a little bit defensively. He's taking that 3rd base, but obviously he can play defensively on these 3 bases. He hasn't taken his gases yet, but that will probably be coming pretty soon. And I wouldn't be surprised to see him get a good amount of queens here to help him defend some of these choke points and to help him protect his 3rd base.
Now, it's worth noting that 3rd base from Snute did come down quite a bit later than it was in the first game of this series. So he is being a little bit more cautious than he was previously, even though he did scout pretty early on what HuK was doing. But note this, Chrono Boost coming down on the Cybernetics score from HuK. This is pretty indicative that it's going to be a big gateway timing of some form. We'd expect to see those additional gates thrown down relatively quickly from HuK, especially since he is continually chrono boosting this warp gate tech out.
Yeah, it looks like they are going to come down in the bottom right-hand corner of his base here. And we'll see how many he does put down, whether it'll be a 4-gate or a 5-gate. Looks like 4 is the number he has settled himself on. And this is by no means an all-in or anything like that, but it is going to put pressure on the Liquid Zerg. And it's nice here as well, this little Zealot poke, just chipping away at the hatchery, just kind of understanding that it's there, knowing the timing that it finished out, just kind of getting as much information as he possibly can. And he is going to have an opportunity here, I think, to do a little bit of aggression, a little bit of damage here, as just now the gas is starting to be mined for Snute. He's not going to have speed for quite a while.
He won't have speed, but he's also just invested all of his lava into more drones. I don't think he's suspecting this is coming. Sees it now, but where's that lava count at? Only 2. The next injects are quite a way off for the moment. The Overlord not able to get in-game force back by 2 sentries in the main base, but what do you do with Snute? Throw down Spine Crawlers, hope that Rotoron finishes up quick, and make a lot of Zerglings.
Yeah, it's going to be a little bit of a delicate hold here. HuK warping in nothing but zealots. He understands quite well the composition his opponent has and what he needs against it. The Mothership Core comes in to initiate the engagement. It'll get pushed back by these two queens, and now the probe's going to come in. Ooh, nice time warp, basically zoning out a lot of the lings. They're going to have to go the long way if they're going to try and help in this engagement. The queens push in, but now they're behind or in front of the lings. Lots of Zerglings falling, no surround onto these Zealots. The Spinecrawler still hasn't finished. The Zealots are going to focus it down. Another warping of Zealots come in, take down the Spinecrawler before it can finish. The Mothership Core still alive, and HuK pressuring quite aggressively onto this third base.
Snute is already in a rough spot. Those roaches cannot come out quickly enough for him. And this isn't pure Zealot either. There is builds which only incorporate a lot of Zealots early on. HuK has a good amount of gas banked up. He can warp in Stalkers if need be in order to try and stop this. But he's taken out the third. He may not even go for that, just saying, well, I've killed your third base. I've got my own third just started now. Guess what? This is a Protoss player's dream scenario.
He's got to be a little bit worried about any sort of potential counterattack. Still waiting to see kind of what the tech choice is for him, as he's got 700 gas. He just took the gases at his natural as well. And, you know, the question kind of becomes, where is that logical transition for him? Right now, the gas goes into sentries to help him protect against that potential counterattack that we talked about. But now it's kind of a role reversal. We saw in the previous game, Snute was the one who took out HuK's early third base. Now HuK returns the favor.
So, as this stands, we're in a kind of, as you said, a complete role reversal situation. Snute is the one without the third, and arguably, well, not even arguably, that is obviously a lot worse for a Zerg player than a Protoss who's taken it greedy fast. HuK is in a much better footing as this second game starts, and we can see just by the drone count, just by the army composition of Snute, he is in no way comfortable, whereas HuK, his probe count is looking solid. It's pretty much level with that of Snute. He's now a base up for the next 30 seconds or so. Everything really coming up Protoss.
Yeah, there's no question about it, and you can kind of see it just in the tech right now. +1 coming out, the Twilight Council coming down, the Robo has finished up, and I'm sure we'll be seeing something else. He might just want to go for some sort of timing attack off of three bases here, once timing it with Blink or something along those lines here, just because he knows he's kind of got the foot on the throat. And, well, we saw Snute in the last game go for the Swarm Host. It looks like he's shaping up to go for it again, and HuK might want to just cancel that out before it ever kind of comes to fruition.
So, with the Infestation Pit, obviously Swarm Hosts are a logical option. It's something Snute is well renowned for going for. But HuK's moving across, and as you said, he's got his foot down. He can end this game if Snute doesn't defend this very, very nicely. He's having to make more units, but this in itself isn't ideal for the Liquid Zerg. By being forced to make more units, his drone count stays a little lower than he would ideally want at this stage of the game. And HuK, he's always got the option just to recall out if things aren't going the way he likes.
Yeah, he's got no forward pylons here. This isn't meant to do any sort of severe damage, but kind of like what you talked about. Just force out some units and kind of make Snute a little bit nervous here. It looks like he's certainly succeeding in that. We saw a round of roaches followed by some Swarm Hosts here. Snute is back up to 60 drones, so he has gotten himself up to at least a reasonable amount on three bases. He desperately wants to be taking a fourth here sometime soon. But the question is, when is he going to feel comfortable doing that? Probably not until he's got quite a few more Swarm Hosts.
The trouble is, for HuK, he's kind of giving Snute that chance to get those Swarm Hosts out, and it's always a dangerous play, that giving Snute time, because he loves Swarm Hosts. Probably the only person who likes Swarm Hosts more than Snute would be Stefano, but it's unhealthy how much he likes them. So it's going to be quite interesting to see what HuK's plan is, because sure, he can try and contain Snute on these three bases, but a Nidus network coming down, Snute doesn't want to be staying on those three bases.
Yeah, I actually kind of really like this. Again, we're starting to see the creativity. And what if, with these overlords coming around on the right side here, Nidus Worm, the Swarm Hosts go through the Nidus, pop out into the back of HuK's base, and suddenly you're engaging into a really difficult position for HuK. And, I mean, whether or not that comes to fruition, we'll have to see. The Dark Shrine coming down, more gateways finishing, that second Robo on the way. So, again, HuK knows about these Swarm Hosts. He kind of knows what he's playing against here. But he's in a little bit of a better position here to adjust with it. Snute's just coming with a little bit of a different angle here.
HuK taking a fourth base now. He's continuing on with this good macro focus, good kind of late game plan all in all. But can he do much with this? Because as we saw last game, The mid-game HuK was really on top of things, but Snute was able to get up those 36, was it 36 or 38 in the end, Swarm Host
It was
total?
36, the end of the game with 36. But he got up around 40, I think, for a moment, lost a few of them later on.
Either way, that's a huge number of Swarm Hosts, and you just can't engage that head-on, shy of, obviously, the moons aligning and everything going just your way.
Right.
What does HuK do this game if Snute is able to get those Swarm Hosts out, which he's well on his way to with 18 on the field?
Well, I think he had a window early on in the last game to kind of engage into it. And I mentioned it earlier, I don't think he had enough Colossi. It was at a point where he was almost maxed out and he only had 4 Colossi. And you really kind of want 6, maybe even 7 or 8 if you're going to engage into that Swarm Host ball. The way you want to engage through it is you want to take down all the Locusts and push in on top of the Swarm Hosts. And with only 4 Colossi against, as you mentioned, 36 Swarm Hosts, you can't really do that.
The Locusts getting nicely controlled. The Swarm Host just trying to sneak on by up towards the third of HuK. And HuK is allowing this to happen at the moment. He's going to try and come in from the side. If the Locusts aren't in a good position, could be a problem. But Snute, he's aware that was the plan of HuK, and he's got those rally points set just right.
Yeah, and he's got that Nidus coming down as well, so Swarm Hosts can kind of join in here right as soon as they pop out. They don't have to awkwardly kind of waddle across the map. And, well, HuK is back to protect his 4 bases, which he's going to be kind of turtled up on for a little while, I think, figuring out, as we've talked about, a creative way to engage into this. 2 Colossi get left behind. These Locusts come in. Is 1 Colossi going to fall? It does. Little lackadaisical there from HuK. Nice force field trap. Some Roaches, though, back by his third base, and the Swarm Hosts are forced back. The Nidus does go down.
The Nidus falling is a good little pick-off. It prevents more reinforcements coming in. These force fields are actually really solid for HuK, preventing the Locusts getting on in. This is forcing the retreat out of Snute at the moment, so despite one of those Colossi that were a little out of position getting taken down, HuK has broken this siege up position and has bought himself a lot more time in this game.
Yeah, HuK up to 191 supply, sitting pretty on 74 probes as well, and I would say when he's maxed, he's going to look to start to push forward. We do see 6 more Swarm Hosts, and the Vipers starting to join the party. The problem here, the big difference, to tell you the truth, Madals, from what we saw in the previous game, well, Snute's completely forgotten his evolution chambers.
And that is actually quite a big point, because +3 is nearly done for HuK. It is now becoming a massive upgrade advantage for our Protoss player, and it just shows that if a player is knocked out of their normal pattern early on, with the third going down, it can make little bumps and mistakes in their build order.
And 3 Colossi on the field, the 2 more walking over to that main brunt of the army, and well, they look like they're primed to push forward. The Stalkers, actually, this is a nice play here. The mobile units moving forward. Zealots coming around the bottom side looking for additional bases. Vipers pulling 1 Stalker at a time. You kind of see the desperation here from Snute trying to keep this base alive. The Swarm Hosts push in. The Stalkers should be able to blink back and get away. Really nice pickoff there with minimal losses for the EG Protoss.
That was a really good decision by HuK, moving in with those Blink Stalkers. Getting the 4th base is a massive pickoff for HuK. Snute, now only on 3 bases, is going to start hurting. He has to be very cost efficient. But to be fair, Swarm Host is one way to do that. But Liaison, we've got 4 Stargates coming down now.
Yeah, I was just going to say, this is what HuK didn't do last game. He was kind of stuck on anything but Stargate tech, was basically what he ended up going with. And now, well, he's no pride. He's just moving forward with that Stargate tech. 4 Stargates will be a huge and, well, quick transition here if Snute does not catch it. And especially with that 4th base going down, Snute, although he's got a bank built up, he's been maxed for a while, he's going to be hurting a little bit trying to figure this out if he's not careful.
The important thing as well is, due to Snute's bank kind of just creeping up a little bit, but not hugely, with the big investment into the Swarm Host, 26 of them on the field, this big switch to air units that really HuK is preparing for can't be countered. There's just not enough resources for Snute to suddenly jump with a lot of production into his chosen counter for it.
And a really nice Nidus Worm coming down on the right-hand side of the map. About, well, 9 Swarm Hosts come in and start pushing this 4th base of HuK, who's actually establishing a 5th base right now. And this is kind of uncharted waters for him from the previous game. His opponent on 3 bases, he is taking a 5th. So despite the fact that, well, the Nidus play has been really nice, it's been really creative here, you start to see HuK continue to maintain control of this game with 4 Void Rays coming out right now. And, Well, more queued up after that. He's got Psionic Storm coming out. The double Spire transition attempted here for Snute. But, I mean, you've still got to like HuK's position here.
I really like HuK's position here. These Void Rays are going to catch him off guard. And with the double Spires only just now getting started up, this is a bit of an interesting spot for Snute. And what he does against this maxed out Protoss army is going to have to be fairly creative. A couple of Swarm hosts pushing in, but HuK just doesn't care. He's moving along the bottom of the map. He's just like, well, you're attacking me. I'm just going to waltz on by and take out your bases.
Yeah, and really nice blink there, protecting some of these Colossi. He's done a much better job this game of protecting those Colossus. He's on 7 right now, but he hasn't really yet to remake any over the course of this game. Pushing in Vipers while trying to figure out what in the world to do with themselves. Blinding Cloud does go down towards the back there, but a pull and a recall here from HuK, and he gets home safely.
So HuK lost a decent chunk of stuff there, but overall in terms of the resources down, he's only lost 1,000 more resources than Snute. And if you're a Zerg player who's going heavily into Swarm hosts, you want to be seeing a much bigger discrepancy between yours and your opponent's resources lost. HuK is playing a really solid game of StarCraft here, just as he did in the previous match, and I'd say Snute is actually having a bit of difficulty dealing with it.
Yeah, and I really like what HuK's doing right now with these Zerg, I should say Zealot, counterattacks and run-bys. Snute scouted the Stargate, started building a lot of queens. He was up to 10 queens, and HuK just ran in and killed 4 of them with Zealots. He understands the Zealots are a little bit expendable, and the Void Rays, coupled with those Colossi, coupled with, well, possibly Templar later on, those are what's going to win him the game, and he needs to basically minimize the air control and the, transfuses that could be coming in from those queens.
Another hatch gets taken down, and this again really limits Snute to just 3 hatches. But factor in his natural base is mined out, and his third isn't exactly flourishing. We've got a Zerg player who is starting to really struggle for money, or that's actually not true. He's really struggling for income. For money, he's got a decent amount, but ask any child celebrity who doesn't do work as an adult, that money can quickly go down the pan.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting situation that we kind of ran into a little bit in the previous game, where Snute just wasn't losing units other than locusts for the majority of the game, so rebuilding his army was never really necessary. The problem here, I think, is that HuK is building an army that's just devastating against what Snute has, and Snute is not going to have the larva he needs to remax here. These swarm hosts are burrowed, the stalkers sit on top of it, Colossi sitting on top as well. The swarm hosts try to burrow out, but the locusts are actually trapping them in here. More Colossi are going to have to run out. A nice time warp there to basically save the day, but in the back of the base, the Void Ray is reigning supreme for the moment, but the queens come in, and the Corruptors, they will clean all of that up. A little bit of an uncharacteristic loss there for HuK.
Yeah, that was, to be honest, that was actually quite a nice push in for HuK as far as I'm concerned. He took out a lot of those swarm hosts. And look at the army composition. We've got Corruptors coming out for Snute, but he's going to be fending off against a decent count of Void Rays. Yeah,
and all of the bases have fallen for Snute. The tech has been completely reset here. If you look at the structures tab, he's literally got 1 hatchery, a Nidus network, 5 extractors, and a couple of spine and spore crawlers. He has no tech whatsoever. He's desperately trying to reestablish a layer, retake another base here, but HuK, well, he is continuing to push. He is rich beyond his dreams with these 2 mining bases, and even his third still alive as well, and, well, he's played this game wonderfully, Madals.
What can Snute do from this stage? Well, there's actually a fair few things that he's got as an option. He's still got those 19 swarm hosts out, and let's not forget they can be very, very useful. However, there is a limit to just how good swarm hosts can be. And it's probably running on the verge of where it's plausible, but great abducts come through. That's a good number of Colossus getting yoinked on out of there, and actually there's only 2 remaining on the field.
Yeah, down to 2 Colossi, and there are now 16 Corruptors on the field as well. So if Snute can somehow find a way to keep these bases alive now, which is kind of a big if, he might be able to continue to this kind of stabilization process.
So, while we're still stabilizing and seeing what Snute can try and do, we've got to try and buy actually a good amount more time for Snute if he wants to stay in this map, because if we look at his tech, he lost his Infestation Pit, lost obviously the Spires and stuff to the Void Ray harass of the main, but there really isn't much else that he's got. His money is still fairly good. He's still got 1,800 gas and over 3k minerals in the bank, but that doesn't actually go that far if your income is currently 0.
Yeah, it's going to be difficult for him to, as we talked about, kind of remake the army. And more so than the income, he just doesn't have hatcheries to give him larvae. He's got 12 larvae right now kind of banked up for himself. And although he's got all that money, you can't just spend it whenever you want to as a Zerg. You need the larva.
How many hatcheries is he actually on right now? It's literally just the 2 hatches, 1 layer. Third hatch is about to be completed up, but that's in a very vulnerable position. We've seen that attempt at the basically 11 o'clock base repeatedly taken down by HuK. And
yeah,
he's in a strong spot.
And HuK's continuing to upgrade his ship weapons. He's moving forward. I wonder if he's looking for kind of that next transition. We've seen him on Void Rays for a while. They are going to take down that base at the top of the map here and abduct. Well, a lot of abducts actually are going to go down, but with prismatic alignment, the Void Rays can actually do well, a decent amount of damage before they end up running away. And, well, again, a nice victory for all of these Corruptors here, but HuK can trade right now like this a little bit. Every Corruptor that's lost is, well, it's better for him, even if he trades like a Void Ray or 2 for it.
So, HuK isn't
Oh, he took down the base at the bottom as well.
Wow, he did. Okay, that was a really good pick off. Snute actually has only gas income, and he's only had gas income for a heck of a lot of time. Look at the mineral count of Snute. That was at 3,300 only a couple of minutes ago. It can very quickly vanish away. And this is HuK's plan. He's now up to, what's this, a 6th base being established right down to the 5 o'clock position on this map. And frankly, there isn't a response from Snute, who's now pushing in towards the 3rd. But HuK doesn't care about this 3rd base.
Yeah, I mean, he's got 16 Void Rays here, and I mean, that's a huge number. They've got +2 weapons as well as +1 armor and a well, the shields as well. So Snute trying to push forward, but his swarm host count has been minimized quite a bit as well. He's going for another kind of multi-pronged attack. He's defending, he's pushing across towards that re-establishing 3rd base again, while his ground army pushes towards the 4th base, which is just finishing up. Swarm host misrallied, going down, and I don't think this base is going to survive, and I don't know if the base at the top is going to survive either. Void Rays kind of making Corruptors run away here.
There is so many Void Rays out, 17 of them up against only 10 Corruptors. That's not a trade the Corruptors can win. The Spore Coolers are helping, but these Void Rays are at 2-1-1. They trade very nicely. Take out that bottom base, take out the top base, and yet again, Snute is now only on the single hatchery, and he can't actually afford to make another one at the moment.
Yeah, he's, well, he's being starved out. This is kind of a clinical, I guess, example of how to win a longer game as a Protoss player. HuK just playing super well. I don't think that we saw him play like this against well, against Scarlet for one in the Red Bull Battlegrounds North America, but this is really, really solid play. I would love to kind of get into his head a little bit and see kind of where the inspiration has come from. I haven't seen this from him before.
HuK is just playing at a whole different level. He is really playing fantastic StarCraft. Game 1, even though it went in Snute's favor, was not a rollover that I think many people were perhaps expecting out of Snute versus HuK. HuK, he's in just, dare I say it, a position where he frankly couldn't lose this game without really trying to. And Snute, he knows that, but there's $400 on the line here, Liaison. They're not in a position to give up easy.
Yeah, and honestly, what's also interesting about this as we kind of can look a little bit towards the next game, it's not over yet, but the Fat Lady is certainly warming up her vocal cords as we speak, but the 2 kind of largest maps in this map pool, at least for the first 7 games, are now gone. And all the maps are going to be 2-player maps, which we kind of spoke about before. HuK's bread and butter has always been his aggression, his timing attacks, his precision regarding build orders, and he's kind of moving towards maps that may favor that a little bit.
HuK still being active out on the map. Snute, no choice but to try and re-establish up these hatches. Does get the one to the top now, so again can start mining. But look at what HuK's doing. He's just slowly picking away any swarm hosts he can find. He's up by about 40 army supply at this stage, up by just shy of 20 workers. He's in a very, very good spot, and just remaxing on voids all the time. He's got 15 of them. And these swarm hosts aren't a response to that. Add in the zealot harassment we're seeing now at what was the 3rd base long ago, and HuK is happy to throw away these units.
Yeah, Snute's still trying to establish these bases, and it's just, I feel like a broken record here as storm drops come in on that top base. A good amount of kills gotten there, 7 in total for those 2 Templar, and Again, he's fighting valiantly, but you're looking at a Protoss player who has actually been ahead on bases almost the entire game here against a Zerg player. It's something that I would venture to say there has yet to be a game that I've seen, at least, where the Zerg player has been able to come out on top in that scenario.
Snoot's still trying though, he's not giving up on this. He's got pathogen glands coming down, and hypothetically, and this is a lot in the realms of possibility rather than probability, if he were able to get down a good number of infestors, fungal growth on clumped up voidways can really hurt. But we're talking a long way down the line, and HuK, again moving forward, does not want to give Snoot that opportunity.
Yeah, and he's moving in now with his army. This is kind of the killing blow, I think. He's just kind of said enough is enough, and as you mentioned, he is quite clumped up, but it's not going to matter. The Infester's still a ways away, because not only is Snute pretty broke as far as income, he's also supply blocked with all those Void Rays coming in and killing off the Overlords, and in he comes towards this hive, but, well, the supplies well in favor of the Protoss from Evil Geniuses. Can he even this game and the series up at 1-1? He can and will. HuK takes game number 2, and we're all tied up at 1 apiece.